Ahead on the show, we talk to the Dean of the Saw Swee Hock School of Public Health on the rising number of unlinked cases in Singapore.
But first, at the Special ASEAN Summit on Covid-19 today, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said the bloc has to mount a united response to the coronavirus pandemic as the region is deeply connected and interdependent. He stressed the importance of sharing information, given that what works in one country may be relevant for another.
4 of the world's 10 busiest air routes are between ASEAN member states. And we also have the world's busiest land crossing, the causeway between Johor Bahru and Singapore. Therefore, none of us in ASEAN can be truly safe unless the entire region is safe. I would like to suggest 3 ways for ASEAN to respond together. Firstly, by sharing information, strategies, and experiences. We face a common enemy, so what works in one country may well be relevant in other countries. We should therefore keep one another updated on the situation in our own countries and cooperate with one another on issues which have to be handled together. For example, the repatriation of citizens from other countries back home.
PM Lee also said technology can be used to deal with the pandemic. He highlighted Singapore's efforts to use channels like WhatsApp to disseminate information, its work on the Trace Together app, as well as its use of technology to monitor compliance with quarantine orders.
PM Lee said trading routes and supply lines should remain open, especially for essential goods like food and medical supplies. This as none of the ASEAN states are completely self-sufficient. In addition, many countries in the region export goods and agricultural products overseas.
PM Lee also called for the adoption of clear guidelines across ASEAN to help the region take a balanced, rational approach that takes into account both health and economic considerations when dealing with such crisis.
It would be useful for ASEAN to have a set of common criteria or guidelines on when to impose travel or trade restrictions and when and how we can relax them and with what appropriate safeguards. We each have our own domestic considerations, but clear guidelines would help us take a balanced, rational approach that takes into account both health and economic considerations. The ASEAN Coordinating Council Working Group on Public Health Emergencies should study this issue.
Rounding up his speech, PM Lee noted that the crisis will fundamentally change globalization. He said leaders have the responsibility to rebuild domestic confidence in the value of cooperation and maintaining an open approach to partners both regionally and around the world.
We should put in place systems and guidelines to effectively handle future public health emergencies, because this won't be the last one. And we should also not lose sight of the work that is in progress. Therefore, I propose that ASEAN should still aim to sign the RCEP this year and should also continue pursuing the Comprehensive Air Transport Agreement with the European Union. Dealing with the immediate crisis while also not losing sight of longer-term objectives is the best way to enable our economies to survive this crisis and to bounce back after COVID-19 passes.